The little boy I'm chatting with in this photo is my son, Oliver. And what I was whispering to him was, I will never drop you. I will never let you fall. He was the sweetest baby. He was always, always, always smiling. And when he laughed, oh my goodness, when he laughed, it was like a volcano erupted, like it came roaring up from the bottom of his feet. It filled every room. But early on, we knew that Oliver was different, that he just wasn't learning at the same speed as the other kids. You couldn't help noticing. I remember my wife, Andy, and I getting him ready for his first day of kindergarten. I was terrified. Do you know who can be crueler than the boogeyman, Freddy Krueger, and the Wicked Witch, all rolled up into one? Kids. Kids. Because any difference, no matter how big or how small, immediately gives playground bullies a license to torment. And in those early years, a whole lot of mean was scheduled to come Oliver's way. We had all sorts of tests done, talked to all sorts of professionals and experts. Everybody had an opinion. It was his eyes, his dexterity, his motor skills. This one specialist thought his situation stemmed from an auditory processing disorder. That's what she called it, his situation. She had the tallest hair I'd ever seen. She was like Marge Simpson. And even though it was the first week of August, she had this scarf tied around and around and around. She was a Shar-Pei from the neck up. And I made the dreadful decision of looking down at her feet. Sometimes in life, there's things that just cannot be unseen. And those 10 toes were things I will never not be able to see again in my sleep and in my nightmares. They were like frightened lobsters before they were dropped into a pot of boiling water, just hanging on for dear life to the tips of her tevas. She sent us to Children's Memorial Hospital, where they put this gigantic pair of headphones on him. These manhole covers, they wrapped around his ears, his neck, and half of his sweet face. And every few seconds, the machine would make a sound, and Oliver would have to raise his hand to identify which side he heard the beeping noise. This one time, they must have been trying to trick him because he simultaneously launched both of his arms up into the sky, and he looked at me with that Oliver smile, which consisted of 2/3 gum, 1/3 teeth, and he yelled out, "See, Daddy, I'm not deaf." Eventually, we were told that Oliver just learned differently and his challenges were going to be difficult to overcome, that it would be hard for him to make it through high school. Us fathers, the moment we see our son for the first time, we have these ridiculous visions. They're crazy. Varsity quarterback, class president, big man on campus. For the record, his father never came close to holding any of those titles. But after discovering the dismal diagnosis in my mind, I ran for the hills like an Olympian. For the next few years, I wore this veil of denial mixed with fear and embarrassment. I was never, ever embarrassed of Oliver. I was scared for him. I was embarrassed of myself because I dropped my son. In middle school, Oliver was reading as a first grader. He was falling, and I was hiding, until Jordan saved us both. Jordan and Oliver were classmates and played on the same Little League team, the Mighty Orioles. During a game on a blistery Saturday afternoon in July, he and Oliver began arguing about who was going to throw the ball back into the dugout before the next inning began. Trivial stuff for grown-ups, but life-altering for Little Leaguers. Suddenly there was silence. The wind stopped blowing, the leaves on the trees stopped rustling, the birds stopped singing, and then I heard it. We all heard it. Jordan screamed out, "Yeah? Well, at least I'm not in special ed, retard." That was my call to action. But I had absolutely no idea where to start. So I began my mission and became a certified literacy tutor. I started volunteering at Literacy Chicago, working with adults who were trying to become better readers themselves. What's funny is after I began my quest, people started telling me how nice I was, how kind and giving and selfless, which couldn't have been farther from the truth, because in reality, I was the most selfish person in the world. The only reason I was working with these adult strangers was to learn how to help teach my son to read. Once I accomplished that, I was gone. What I never expected, what I never saw coming, were the relationships I would build along the way and the passion that I would find. Did you know there are 36 million adults in the United States who cannot read? 36 million. When I was a little boy, my parents took us to Florida every Christmas. There are 20 million people who live in the Sunshine State. That means there's more people that can't read in the United States than live in the state of Florida. There's 28 million people who live in the state of Texas, which means there's more people who cannot read in our country than live in the state of Texas. And if you were to take the population of the 5 states whose football teams won the last 5 Super Bowls, and you added those numbers all up, the total would almost be identical to how many grown-ups cannot read the sports section in their newspapers. All right, that example's a little skewed because Tom Brady and the New England Patriots can't stop winning freaking Super Bowls, but you understand what I'm saying. It's a lot of people. Charles is 62 years old and works as a traveling salesman in the South. Look at him. He's beautiful, eyes that make you fall in love the first 30 seconds after you meet him. He comes to every class wearing the same thing. Fancy suits, silver bifocals, a gold watch that dangles off a chain hanging off his vest, and these shiny burgundy loafers that if you look down you can see your reflection. Charles stays at these motels off the highway, and after a long day of selling, he eats at the local diners. When the waitress comes by to take his order, no matter what day of the week it is, Charles always orders the same thing, a hot dog or a hamburger, because those are the only 2 words he can read on the menu. Anne Marie is 38 and is a housekeeper at a 5-star hotel on Michigan Avenue in Chicago. She lives with her father and her teenage niece. And no matter what day of the week it is, she brings the Bible her mom gave her when she was a little girl. This Bible, the cover's all torn and held together with Scotch tape. The pages are all stained yellow. Anne Marie knows that Bible by heart. But if I turn to page 40 and I go to the second paragraph down, Anne Marie cannot read the words mother or father or power. Melvin is a giant of a man who can fit me in his front pocket. He drops his 10-year-old daughter off at the library to do her homework and waits in the car across the street in the parking lot of the Dunkin' Donuts because he's too embarrassed to go inside. All those books remind him of what he cannot do. These folks are not looking to become CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. They're not looking to read War and Peace. They're looking to read their prescription bottles and their Bibles and their 3rd grade daughter's homework assignments. They're looking for their dignity. I don't have any hobbies, not one. I don't golf, I don't play tennis, I don't fish, and my wife can swear under oath with her hand on top of Anne Marie's Bible that I am one lousy dancer. But for some reason, this tutoring and I became BFFs. In fact, today, I could help an adult become a better reader in less than 2.5 days. Sounds impossible, right? Challenge accepted. How many hours are in a day? 24. How many in 2 days? 48. Let's add 4 more hours, make it 52. If you give someone 1 hour a week for 1 year, that's 52 hours. Translation? Less than 2.5 days. You can change the course of someone's life in just 1 hour a week. Let me give you an example. I am terrible at basketball. It's embarrassing. But if you spend an hour this Wednesday teaching me how to dribble with my right hand, and next Wednesday you spend an hour teaching me how to dribble with my left, and the following Wednesday how to shoot a layup, and then a free throw, and then a jump shot. After 52 Wednesdays together, am I going to be able to play in the NBA? Of course not. But am I going to be able to go to the park and not have my kids deny that I'm their father? Giving someone 1 hour a week of yourself will change the course of their life, and it will change the course of yours. Now we come to the statistical part of the program. People love their statistics. They make things real for us, validate them. Lets us sink our teeth into something that we hear. For example, According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor, a quarter of our society, that's 25%, volunteer, give something of themselves without getting paid for it. 25%. And of that 25%, most are between the ages of 35 and 54. The least age group represented is between 20 and 24. A majority of people are married with children and have responsibilities. Most are women. Majority are women, and the highest ranking state is Utah, where almost 50% of the people volunteer, while the lowest amount is New Orleans, 20%. So I think what we need to do is we need to get those single men between ages 20 24 off their butts, right, from New Orleans, and have them put the vignette, is that how you say it? Vignette down and get to volunteering. If we do that, we can increase that easily up to 50%. Lots of reasons not to volunteer. What can I do? What can I possibly do? I'm only one person. There's 36 million people who suffer from this problem. What difference can I possibly make? Well, the answer is easy. Your duty, your job is to make it 35,999,999 and 998 and 997. Hey, I'm busy, I'm married, I got a job, I got 3 kids, we just bought a brand new jacuzzi. I don't have time to volunteer. Besides, I got to check my Facebook. Tomorrow night is Tequila Tuesday at Uncle Julio's. And that episode of Dancing with the Stars is certainly not going to watch itself. We all have an hour. I don't have any experience in volunteering or giving back to my community. You know, the 2 things you're not supposed to talk about with a new friend are politics and religion. So I won't ask you who you're voting for in next year's election, but I will borrow a page from Anne Marie's Bible. 1 Corinthians 13 says, "Love is patient, love is kind, love is patient, love is kind." And I guess we can all agree that I'm not only good at tutoring, but we found something else that I excel in, singing. Regardless of what you're teaching someone, if you do it with kindness and patience, that equals what? That equals love, and you will be successful. So where is Oliver today? Well, it seems like the little engine that couldn't, could. He eventually learned to read at grade level, and with the help of a village with a capital V, he got through high school. Right about the time I discovered my passion, he discovered his. As parents, all we want for our kids is for them to find something that makes them feel good about themselves, empowers them, makes them feel special. We tried everything: baseball, football, hockey, guitar, piano, drums, pottery, karaoke, origami. Everything he made looked like chicken. See how I did that? Looked like chicken. Stunk, 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 and stunk. And then one day we were walking in the Menominee Club, which is this place in our neighborhood that offers a bunch of different activities for kids. And we see him stop dead in his tracks, standing like a zombie, stuck in cement in front of this window, his hands and forehead pressed up against the glass. Turns out he was watching a beginning fencing class. From that very moment, he was hooked. Our daughter Isabella always says the reason he fell in love with it is because you get to stab someone and can't get into trouble for it. He describes it a little differently. He says the first time he pulled down that mask over his face was the first time he wasn't that kid, the one who got pulled out of class, the one who couldn't read. He said it felt like he was kind of a superhero. Funny, all those years I was hiding because I didn't want to be me. And now he wore a mask because all he wanted to be was who he was. Not the kid who learns differently, just Oliver. Sometimes we don't choose our passions, they choose us. So when God was up in his laboratory creating the perfect fencer, he had to have Oliver in his mind. heart, relentlessness, warrior. He was recruited by the Ohio State University. If I don't put the word "the" in there, he wants to file impeachment proceedings against me. He had this amazing college career. On March 22nd, he won the NCAA championship. I never get tired of hearing those two words in both ears. NCAA champion. A week before this, he received an email saying that he was just accepted into law school. I know, I can't believe it either. Just what we need, another lawyer. But unfortunately, he's decided against attending right now because he's taking a year off to train for the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. You cannot make that stuff up. Here I was like an Olympian running away from the fire, and here he was running toward it. You should know every single step of his journey has been more difficult than I could possibly explain. He had to work 3 or 4 times harder than most people, and he'll always learn differently. In his law school application, he wrote this beautiful essay about his learning disability. He says, having a learning disability is not like having a cold. It doesn't just go away after you take some medicine or eat a bowl of chicken soup. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the way it made me have to work. I'm proud because it turned me into the person I am today. I am appreciative of every paper I've ever written, every test I've ever taken, every grade I've ever earned. I'll always learn differently. But with the help of a lot of people, I've worked really, really hard and dedicated myself over the last several years to become an excellent student. And I've conquered every obstacle placed in front of me. And I'm excited for the next and the one after that. Oliver Perlis Shindler is my hero, and I'm grateful to him for helping make me the man I am today. Every time, every single time I leave a tutoring session, I'm intoxicated. I mean, I am bombed, I'm blasted. I'm literally skipping home. People look at me like there's something wrong with me, and there is. I'm the most selfish person in the world. Thank you.